What victim ended up being the bad guy after more information came out? In 1864 a train pulled into London carrying a bloodied unconscious man, Franz Muller. Police were alerted, and when the man came to Muller told them as they were riding, two men approached him and tried to rob him. However, Mr. Muller fought back, was shot, and then left behind as the robbers jumped off the train. What actually happened was Franz Muller attacked a Mr. Thomas Briggs, a 69-year-old banker, and robbed him of his gold chain and pocket watch. Later in the day, Mr. Briggs would be found unconscious lying on the tracks because Muller shot him and threw Briggs off the train. Briggs would soon pass away from his injuries. Police were super suspicious, and then a pawn shop owner came forward identifying Muller as selling him Briggs' gold chain. London police issued a warrant, however Muller had already fled the hospital and boarded a sail ship for New York. Scotland Yard inspectors took a steamship to NY, beating Muller by weeks. They and an entire crowd of people were waiting at the docks when Muller arrived. And that's the story of the first murder on a train. There's a cool book about it, Mr. Briggs' Hat. I used to install security cameras as a side job. I was asked to help out a lady going through a horrible divorce. Her soon-to-be ex-husband was sending her threatening text messages from burner phones. He was coming by all hours of the night and breaking windows, and a few times attempted to set their house on fire. A friend of hers reached out to me and explained the situation and asked if I could help her in any way. I purchased cameras and an NVR and went over one night in February and installed the whole system, wires and all. I never felt scared during any of my installations, some of which were in really bad neighborhoods, but this psycho had me worried, so I did this job armed. After finishing up, I showed her how the system works and told her to call me if she ever needed anything else. A couple weeks later I get a call from a fire investigator asking me for help in recovering video. He told me that the guy had returned, broke out a first floor window, and threw in a Molotov cocktail, causing the first floor of the house to be engulfed in flames. The woman and her two daughters were trapped upstairs. The police showed before the fire department, and they had to grab an extension ladder from a neighbor's house and rescue the family through a second floor window. One of the girls was taken to the hospital for smoke inhalation. I walked the guy through the process of pulling up the video. Once he got to the right time on the camera facing the bathroom window, he said, "The video just goes blank." I told him that I set the video cameras to be super sensitive to movement, so the only way it can go blank is if the camera is removed or damaged in some way. I directed him to a camera that would cover the area under the camera that goes blank, and he should see someone mess with it. He tells me that nobody ever approached it. I then informed him that the only way that this scenario is possible is if the guy got into the house and disconnected the feed from inside. We concluded our conversation since he would now need to pour through a lot of video in order to find this man going into the house. About a month passes by and I am driving to work. I hear the woman's name who I had been helping mentioned on the radio during a news segment. I start paying attention and soon find myself feeling weightless in my chair. It had not been her husband at all. She had been the one doing all these things in order to get her husband arrested and sent to jail. She had bought burner phones to send herself text messages. She had been going out at night and breaking the windows. She had been taking the family out to dinner, excusing herself to go to the restroom, then driving home to break a window and try to set the house on fire before returning to the restaurant. She had been the one to disconnect the camera from inside the house the night that she almost killed her kids in an attempt to frame her husband. I thought I was protecting her from a psycho, but turns out I was helping the psycho. TLDR, I thought I was helping a victim by protecting her from her soon-to-be ex-husband, but she was trying to frame him by risking her kids' lives. Corey Harris. He's the guy who went viral earlier this year for showing up at a Zoom court hearing driving while on suspended license. He spent 2 days in jail. Then it was reported that Harris should have had his license reinstated 2 years prior. Harris' attorney sets up interviews with local TV stations stating his innocence. Good Morning America does a piece on Harris and lectures the viewer to not judge a book by its cover. Harris goes back to court, the judge does his homework, and discovers Harris has never had a license in Michigan or any other state, yet has been to Secretary of State office multiple times to renew his ID. The opportunity was there for him to get a license. He chose not to. He goes viral again, but because he lied and embarrassed so many people along the way. Bel Gibson claimed she had cancer, claimed she beat it through diet, claimed to donate $1 million to cancer hospital, didn't have cancer, didn't donate, lied about everything, played the victim too. Who knows how many people died following her advice. Years ago there was a local news story about a woman who was caught shoplifting baby supplies and formula. The cop that responded took pity on her because she had a young kid and no money, so instead of arresting her bought the stuff for her. A local business even went as far as to offer her a job, and I happen to know the owner. A few days after the story I asked him if she got the job and he said no because every single one of her references said she was a massive kleptomaniac. Karen Matthews faked her daughter's kidnapping not long after Madeleine McCann went missing so that she could get money. She hid her inside a bed at a friend's house and planned to collect the reward money. People actually felt sorry for her, thinking her daughter was missing, and it was a huge police investigation. Ended up in jail for kidnapping, perverting the course of justice and false imprisonment. I remember when this happened. The search for Shannon Matthews was all over the news and there was a lot of sympathy towards Karen, until she eventually crumbled under the pressure. I don't think she expected a media frenzy of that magnitude. Dave Krooer had been dating casually after his 12-year relationship ended and ended up meeting a woman named Carrie Farver. They hit it off instantly and spent a lot of time together over the next few weeks. This was until Carrie texted Dave at work and asked if they could move in together. This was a shock to Dave and he said no. Carrie then sent a super nasty response and basically told him to duck off. Dave then started getting bombarded with texts and emails from Carrie. The harassment, already relentless and almost daily, started to expand to include other people in Dave's life, like his recent girlfriend Liz Golier. Liz became a constant target of Carrie's stalking and harassment. Things escalated. At one point Liz's house burned down. I suggest looking up this case for the full details because there's so much more to this story. As it turned out, Liz had killed Carrie ostensibly out of jealousy of Carrie's quickly growing relationship with Dave. Liz then began impersonating Carrie and sending messages pretending to be Carrie. That's right, Liz was the one behind all those messages. The whole story is absolutely wild. I suggest checking out the book A Tangled Web by Leslie Rule for the full story. It's absolutely nuts. Katie Sorenson, the nutjob momfluencer who claimed a couple was following her through a shopping center, plotting to kidnap her children, supposedly because they were so good looking. Turns out the other couple were just shopping at the same time, did absolutely nothing wrong at all, and she just wanted attention and more followers. That story about the Vallejo couple where the girlfriend was kidnapped and the police decided the boyfriend did it and everyone shamed him. But then it turned out that the police did a terrible job and it was an actual kidnapper the whole time. Similar in the UK when Nicola Bulley mysteriously vanished on a dog walk and armchair detectives jumped on her husband, accusing him of killing her. She was found right where experts thought she should be if the death was not suspicious and all evidence pointed to her falling in a river. People moved on when they realized there wasn't a conspiracy. Loto Ryan and Amp. 3 other Olympic athletes lied about being robbed at gunpoint while out in Rio. Turns out they were drunk, went to a gas station and Ryan vandalized part of it after urinating in public. Dumbus got suspended and lost 4 sponsorships among other things when the lie was uncovered. So, doesn't necessarily fit with all the true crime responses involving victims who turned out to be perpetrators all along. But Shinszo Abe, Japan's former prime minister, who was assassinated in 2022. The assassin, Tetsuya Yamagami, targeted Shinszo for his support of the Unification Church. The assassin's mother was brainwashed by the church, donating most of the family's possessions to it, resulting in her children going without food and lingering family strife that included the assassin's brother committing suicide, and the assassin himself attempting it. The assassin initially targeted the leader of the church, but being unable to reach them, instead targeted Shinszo because of his and his family's close relationship with the church, which includes the assassin's belief that this support from Shinszo and his grandfather, who was also prime minister, helped the church get established and thrive in Japan. The effect of the assassination was to highlight the nature of the Unification Church and its influence in Japanese politics. Shinszo Abe's ties to it were scrutinized, as were those of members of his cabinets and politicians still in office. It hastened the reshuffle of the then ruling cabinet and one or two political resignations over ties to the church. It also opened up the media to criticism for its lack of reporting on the tactics of the church and its victims. Furthermore, it generated legal efforts to strip the church of its religious incorporation, strengthen laws against cults and their activities, and adopt policies to aid victims, particularly the children of cult members. Finally, publicity around the church's activities and the assassin's plight have so tarnished Shinszo Abe's reputation and raised public sympathy for the assassin that prosecutors still haven't actually prosecuted the assassin for the crime. I don't remember her name. I think it was Sherry Paparini, but there was a YouTube video I watched of a girl who faked her own kidnapping and was trying to play victim. While all the resources were going to finding Sherry, there was a woman who was actually kidnapped. She ended up serving jail time. Matthew Solomon Acker, the newlywed murder occurred on Long Island. Solomon killed his wife on Christmas Eve 1987 after being married just 6 weeks. He went so far as to help the police search for her, and I think he even went on TV to tell his sob story. Then it came out he was the one who did it. Went to prison for about 30 years, got paroled in 2019, and the victim's family is furious. Even his own sister said he should have remained in prison. One of my friends at work met Solomon back in the early 80s. They were both invited on a camping trip by the same friend, and he said Solomon was one of the creepiest human beings he'd ever met.